So, welcome to the NSA XY Virtual Lunch. Today is June 13th, Friday the 13th, and we're here to talk about the recent NSA Publishing Lab, which sounds like it was quite the outstanding experience. We have a couple people who were there to give us what they learned and what their biggest takeaways were, and then we'll throw it open to questions. We're going to go down the line and say hello. I'm Liz Green. I'm from Wisconsin. It's finally summer here, and I'm a women's wellness speaker and happy to be here. Dale, we're going to start with you today.
All right. My name is Dale Irvin, and I'm coming to you live from the Tiki Bar because it's Friday, and that's pretty much how I spend my Friday.
Well, we're glad that you joined us for your Friday.
Absolutely.
David, you're next.
Hey, everybody. David Newman, formerly soon-to-be CSP, now David Newman CSP, Philadelphia, PA, in the house. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Doug, you're up.
Hey, everyone. Doug DeVitri here. St. Louis, Missouri is where I am and where I'm from. And I was at the Publishing Lab and happy to share anything I can to help out.
Great. Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle Payne-Knoper. I am in central Indiana. I talk about food and agriculture, and I, too, attended the Publishing Lab, by far the most valuable NSA event that I had been to over, I don't know, 13 years of business.
Philadelphia, PA, in the house. Oh, my God. Glad to be here.
All right.
What are you doing?
You're up. Somebody's playing the recording.
I had the other window open. That was
happened to me. The same thing happened to me on Monday when I was doing another show. Exact same thing.
Really?
Window. It was me, but I fixed it.
Oh, all right. Cool.
Sorry.
And Tom, you're up.
This is Tom Singer from Austin, Texas, where summer is also here, but that means it's going to be gross.
Gross. All right, good. Thanks for sharing.
I'm looking forward to visiting Milwaukee for some nice, perfect summer weather.
Yes, we'll do what we can to provide that for you. Excellent. Michelle and Doug, who would like to go first?
Doug, you go ahead because you're the front of the room type of person, so I'm sure you have much better takeaways than the back of the room type of person.
I don't know about that. Well, I can kind of give you some background as far as the book that I have, the concept that I went through, the process before the Publishing Lab and after the Publishing Lab. Some of my best takeaways, and so I think what that might help you do is if you're trying to get your first commercial published book or thinking about it or not necessarily where to start, this is something I've just gone through as far as this process. So some of these notes kind of, depending on where you are, hopefully you get one or two ideas. So the book that I have that I'm working on right now, I do have an agent. Jeff Herman is my agent, and he has taken my proposal and submitted it to, I think, about 7 different commercial publishing houses. How I found Jeff was he was recommended by Alan Weiss, who I'm part of his community. And so he had that trusted name, plus he was going to be speaking at the conference at the Publishing Lab. So I reached out to him ahead of time, and he wanted to take on my project because it was unique, and I kind of followed the proposal guidelines. And so from there, he sent out to 7 different publishing houses. 2 were really interested in it, and right now, I mean, hopefully today, tomorrow, next week, I get official word from one of the publishers that yes, they are going to take on the project and kind of move forward. So I will say it has been challenging, especially as a first-time author, because publishers right now, commercial publishers, aren't taking on as many projects as they were in the past. Because I guess some projects have failed, and they've invested in some projects that didn't work out so well. So they're being really particular as far as which some of the projects that they are taking on. And I will say, one of the things that I ran into with, why some publishers didn't want to take on the project, even though it's kind of a new concept and a new idea, was because in the last year, I've decreased my speaking calendar because I wanted to be able to stay home more and also do more consulting. Well, they saw the fact that they were looking at my speaking dates and kind of what I had planned for this upcoming year, and because it wasn't what it was before, the last 5 years, as they saw that as a really big negative. So I guess depending on where you're in the process of just being able to get a publisher to say yes, they want to see that you have a speaking platform, that you have a number of dates booked, and that you're really going to sell books. And one of the big takeaways that I got from the Publishing Lab was when Rory Vaden talked about, you're not in the business of writing books, you're in the business of selling books. So especially in creating that proposal initially, you're approaching the book as a business. So your marketing plan is really like your business plan, kind of starting up from scratch. And once you're able to sell that proposal, then it's just a matter of executing. I'm sure other people have other experiences, kind of going through that process. But that's at least where I am right now. Is I think fingers crossed that one of these two make me an offer I can't refuse, or at least make me that offer. So I don't know if anybody has any questions regarding that or about the book or anything, but I'm kind of happy to kind of share in a Q&A type format.
I think that's really interesting, the idea of the book as a business as opposed to just intellectual content. That's sort of a shift that I think is different.
I really like the Rory Vaden quote that you just said about you're not in the business of writing books, you're in the business of selling books. That kind of resonated really heavily. So I got a question for you. A lot of what you sort of talked about came from your experience of working with your agent. What specifically came from the Publishing Lab where you went, ah?
Yeah, I would say the idea of the book being a business, and what I did is there's a tool or it's an app for the iPad. It's called a Business Model Canvas, and what that did was you plug in the amount of customers or potentially people who would buy the book. You put in the revenue as far as how many books you could potentially sell, and then so you have revenue, and then you also have expenses. And so what I did is I kind of created a best case type of scenario that, using conservative numbers to be able to show to the publisher that, look, this is going to be a home run even if we only sell 1% of the 1% of the target market. One of the other big takeaways was to approach the top ways to sell the books were through buying in bulk sales, so buying 500 or 1,000 books ahead of time in lieu of speaking fee, having the company buy books as part of their training and have some sort of licensing agreement along with that. One of the things that I thought might have been important was kind of social media and online. Well, that doesn't really lead to as many book sales as we might potentially think. So, I'm sure, Michelle kind of has some things that she was able to take away, kind of like the myths that you would think would sell a lot of books, really, really don't.
So, Doug, inquiring minds want to know, what's the title of your book?
So the book title is called Screen to Screen Selling.
One more time.
Screen to Screen Selling. Oh. So how to dramatically increase profitability and the customer's sales experience without being physically present.
Cool.
I thought you said scream to scream selling, and I thought I'd buy that.
So Doug, and I'm not being critical, but it brings up an interesting juxtaposition, because your book is about screen-to-screen selling, and you just said you learned that social media doesn't help as much. How do those two sentences work together?
Well, I think with screen-to-screen, it's kind of like face-to-face, except we go screen-to-screen. Well, social media is, you can define social media a lot of different ways. What makes this kind of different than social media is this screen-to-screen is real time. So it's like being face-to-face, except we're now screen-to-screen.
So it's like this actual Google Plus chat that we're having.
Yeah. So Google Plus is one alternative, just like GoToMeeting is one alternative, or Skype is one alternative. It doesn't matter so much. What matters is the sales professional has the right process to use the right language and have the right skill sets to be able to navigate the conversation based off the customer, not make an assumption with slides on a webinar.
Cool. Any other questions for Doug before we slide on over to Michelle? And we should say hi to Jessica.
Ah.
And I think, Eileen, are you with us too?
That's a hologram of her.
We can see her picture, but not necessarily hear her or see her live. But that's a step in the right direction. All right, Michelle, what were your biggest takeaways?
My biggest takeaways, and I just published my first book, No More Food Fights, a year ago. And so I went to this because I was interested in going mainstream rather than self-publishing, just because of the topic that I'm writing about. And so my biggest takeaways was, one, to learn, do I really need to have an agent? What's the process? And what do the proposals look like? Doug was a huge help beforehand. So I think one of the first takeaways that I learned for anybody who's watching and recording is that your NSA colleagues are a huge resource. And if you want to know this business, Diana Boer was the chair of the workshop. She was remarkable. She brought in agents and editors from all the major publishers because she's published 47 books, my notes say. Doug, does that sound right?
Yeah, she's amazing. I mean, she only went for 1 hour, spoke for 1 hour. She could have spoke the entire conference, and it would have been happy.
Yeah, and people would. I mean, seriously, within the first hour, just listening to her talk, I got all the value I needed out of that conference. It was amazing. So one of the first things that I learned is today you pretty much do need to have an agent if you want to go with a big house publisher because they're not going to give you the time if you don't. And Doug was gracious enough to introduce me to Jeff, and it was really interesting talking to him. And learning what they're interested in. And so the collegiality and being able to work with your NSA peers, I think, was the first takeaway. But then also the second is the platform is critically important. And as Doug already pointed out, I think somebody besides Rory had said that, it's not just about being a best-selling author, it's about being a bestseller. And so trying to figure out your platform or community, and those terms were used interchangeably. And I was relatively shocked in talking with Jeff and a couple of others. Speakers are very attractive to them because we do have the existing platform, not only through our speaking programs, but also through social media. And while they did say social media doesn't sell books, I also heard them say social media is really critical. And when they're reviewing proposals, if they see that you have a large number of Twitter followers or that you're really active on your blog or on Facebook, because they do go through and they analyze all of that. I was very concerned about the numbers because of my niche being in agriculture and food. I don't have the multi-million people platforms. But they said that selling 5,000 books is about the magic number. And, either by luck or happenstance, I was able to do that with my first book that was self-published. So that was very encouraging to me, is to hear that they look at your platform, they really like the numbers that we have as speakers, and that it's not a huge unreachable number that they want to be able to achieve. So that would probably be my second takeaway, would be the platform. And then the third one was really just going through the process and understanding that it's probably not as intense or as overwhelming as what many people have looked at it before, or what I perhaps thought. If you've written a book, if you have a solid idea, and you can outline it in a way that makes sense to other people, the publishers work with you. And in conjunction with that, somewhat related, I would say, and I already knew this going into it, but to hear it from the publishers, they're not going to market for you. You're responsible for your own marketing. But it was very intriguing to hear from some of the agents and some of the different ideas that they have for marketing, and they do look to your social media platforms for that. And they're doing some very creative things as well. So I guess those would be my somewhat loose takeaways. I can't speak enough about the quality of people that they had there. The other real quick one was book publicity. They said you need a publicist that is specific to books, and they had a couple of folks that were there that seemed quite good, and they actually very specifically, consistently said the publicist needs to be specialists in books because they know how to pitch specific, which is different than what I did with my first book. So that was also a good takeaway. So I don't know if you guys have questions. That's kind of my random thoughts.
Actually, Eileen had one offline here about whether or not they talked about self-publishing, like CreateSpace with Amazon at the lab.
Self-publishing through Amazon, you said?
Well, through any channel, but did they have things to say about self-publishing, or was it really focused on getting a publishing deal?
They did. I didn't take a lot of notes on it because since I've already done that and I'm fairly satisfied with that, the one thing that they did say is that it looks a lot less professional if you use products such as, what's the Google product?
CreateSpace?
Yes.
Amazon product.
There were a couple of folks that were pretty anti-CreateSpace, but given the business they're in, yeah, I would expect that to be the case. They were very clear from the publishing houses that you should never buy a book from Amazon because books are the loss leader and therefore they've destroyed the publishing business. And I mean, that literally was a quote. I think Doug will back me up on, too. But there were others that talked about self-publishing, and today they said self-publishing is much more widely accepted than what it once was. I don't know if Doug has any more notes on that. I did not take a lot of notes on self-publishing because I have no interest in doing that just because of where I am with my first book.
Yeah, Michelle, I think one of the reasons why I decided to go commercial publish is because I have self-published kind of inside of a niche, which is okay, but if I wanted to leap into other industries or other verticals, the book was the platform to be able to do that. So, you know, some people, you'll hear a lot that people will say, well, yeah, self-publishing, that's the way to go now because it's easier to be able to do it and have a finished product, which I think is great, except I kind of like to do the different, what's opposite of everybody else. So if a lot of people are going to go into self-publishing, then I think now's the time for me to go and have a commercial published book. So at least that's a way that I've kind of wrapped my mind around, you know, going through all this extra effort and hassle, and even waiting 18 months to have a final product. Kind of, there's those are pros and cons, you know. So you really have to ask the question, you know, why am I doing this book?
Yeah, I would echo that too because I mean my whole thought is if I'm going to write the second book, it's to go mainstream so that it can reach the standard culture rather than just my niche. And one of the things that I valued greatly about the workshop that I think others did is we had the opportunity to take a proposal and sit down with agents and or publishers. That was not nearly as intimidating as what we were led to believe. It was just a conversation. And it was really interesting to go through the proposal and to find how it resonated. In my case, I sat with an agent. Doug, I don't remember who you sat down with, but it was valuable.
So it sounds like the content that you received at the workshop was really good, and the opportunities were very good.
Yeah.
So I know this was sort of a departure from what's been offered in the past.
From NSA?
Yeah. Did you have something, Doug?
Oh, well, you know, I wanted to throw in a couple other things because there was a session that they talked about the 5 things that are working in publishing, and there's a couple that weren't mentioned, at least in this call today. Number 1 is foreign rights. So, for example, like Joaquim de Posada has sold 1 million copies in South Korea, right? And has only sold like 50,000 copies in the U.S. Well, just because of the nature of his book that kind of appeals to the social norms in South Korea, he was able to sell more books there than in the U.S. So I think that's one of the things that we can often overlook as publishers is not being able to get into foreign rights. And then the second thing is organizational partnerships, where and even like Shep Hyken just did this with his book. Something about the top 50 tools to amaze your customer. Well, Ace Hardware was kind of the client who helped them create the book. So he was able to get books in hands even before this before the book. I don't know if it was before the book was written or after the book was written, but he was able to partner with the company ahead of time that made the book a part of the process.
So going back to the being in the business of selling books.
Yeah. And
so that was 2. You said there were 5?
Yeah, there was 5. The other one was Michelle already mentioned working with a publicist. And then another one was big data, like taking a look at the different data that's out there about books and being able to make better decisions on how you form those strategic partnerships and alliances ahead of time. So it says on my notes 5 things, but I only have 4 things.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to find them too, Doug.
So what you're saying is don't send Doug to take notes next time.
Or the 5th thing is refer to rule number 3. There is no rule about Fight Club.
Or the 5th thing is take advantage or depend on your NSA colleagues, which was Michelle's first point. All right, I think we are in the throw it open to questions part of the program. Who has a question?
You mean about the program or just any question?
You know, Dale, you can ask whatever you want.
Okay, I'll think of one and get back to me.
Jessica pointed out that we have a remarkable number of CSPs, and particularly soon-to-be CSPs.
Yippee!
Yeah, exciting.
I have a question for David. David's got. I've seen you do a lot of promotion. I'm just curious to hear about the success of your book.
Yeah, well, so thank you, and everything that everyone has said so far is absolutely the stone cold truth. Starting with that, your NSA buddies are the best source. I mean, I have the way I got my agent, and similar to you, Doug, is I asked a friend of mine here in Philly, Gene Marks. I said, "Hey, you've got 5 traditionally published books. Would you be willing to hook me up with your agent?" And he said, yes, absolutely, and then one thing led to another, and then boom, so all of that. The other part where NSA friends and colleagues and buddies have been incredibly important is with the book launch and having your book launch partners being willing to email the universe, set your book's birthday and say, okay, June 5th, we're going to send out these bazillion emails and, the whole bonuses and all of that. People have asked me, David, how many tens of thousands of dollars have you spent on your book launch? And I said, well, let me count it up. 0, 0, 0, because it was the Friends and Family program. And so this was a combination of NSA colleagues so much help. I think any successful book, no one does anything great alone. You are standing on the shoulders of giants. And the more you ask for help, because you need your endorsement posse, you need your book launch partners, and you need your advocates and allies and friends and people who are willing to give you a little piece of their platform. I asked for all of that. I kept asking for help. For some crazy reason, people kept giving me the help, and it was just awesome, awesome, awesome. But you got to go in. I have a blog post I'm going to write about this called Harvest Time. We all have all these relationships and people that know us and love us, and we've done so many favors. And man, oh man, when you're writing your book and you're marketing your book specifically, it is harvest time. It is time to call in those chips, call in those favors, say, hey, would you be wonderful enough to help me out with a book blurb, with a review, with a blog post, with emailing your folks about my book? And I've done that for years and years and years. I think we all have. But when it's your turn, man, don't be shy. I mean, you gotta give this all you got. And I also love what we said earlier in the call. The book marketing plan is the you marketing plan. Absolutely and amen. So the only question I have is about the book publicist. I remember a couple of issues ago on VOE, Jim Cathcart was talking to Rebecca Morgan, and they were very much down on book publicists, and they said, oh, book publicists, a huge waste of money. it's the #1 sinkhole. Book publicists don't sell books. Book publicists build your platform and build your visibility, but they don't sell books. So I'm curious kind of what other people's opinion or experience has been on the book publicist, because that can be a great way to burn through a lot of dollars.
David, I'm just going to add that it was a bad choice that I made to pay a book publicist, but I think it also depends on who you work with. I think there are some, and maybe this person wasn't bad, she just wasn't the right fit for me.
Okay.
So I think it's finding the person who gets what you're trying to accomplish and has you as a priority, not just an extra source of revenue that is an annoyance. And so I think that publicists for some people work out great. I think for other people it's like a big flushing sound, and I think it really has to do with just getting that right match of somebody who is driven to see you succeed instead of just cashing your check.
Right.
I have a question for David. Behind you there, do you have a name badge museum?
There it is.
Wow, is that every name badge you've ever had?
It's no, because they have little cheap plastic kind of throwaway ones. I don't keep those, but it's every durable name badge I've ever had.
So you just use those to walk into any event and nobody double checks it?
Yeah, pretty much. And then I actually go on stage with it, and it worked. And then after the event, I send them an invoice.
Now that would get you a book deal. That would get you a book deal. If you really did that, you would have a best-selling book. How I Spoke at Such and Such a Conference Without Being Invited.
Right. See, Alan Weiss says always get paid in advance. I say always get paid later. Just put on the badge, go on stage, give a talk, send an invoice. It works for me, friends. That's all I can say. Thanks for the question, Dale.
So, can I ask a technical question that has nothing to do with name badges?
Oh, hi, Mary Kelly. We haven't said hello to you yet.
That's okay. So my question was, I have done both the regular publish route and the self-publishing route, and I've got a bit of a confusion, and I'm hoping somebody here can help me. I know that you can pay like $30 or $40 a month to Amazon and get all of your stuff listed on Amazon. So all of your manuals, your DVDs, CDs listed on Amazon for sale. Has anybody done that, number one? And number two, I don't know how to get, I know CreateSpace can print hard copy now, I guess, and has anybody done that? That's my questions.
I think, Jess, you've used CreateSpace to do some of your stuff, right?
Yeah, currently all of my reflection journals are done through CreateSpace, and I didn't do the graphic.
I happen to have one right here.
Thanks. I don't have any, so that's perfect. Yeah, there you go.
Traveling, so I thought I would demonstrate for you.
Perfect, thanks. So it's, in theory, a pocket-size book, 90% blank lines, a collection of like reflection prompts. And I have it listed on Amazon.com, and then it automatically prints through CreateSpace. I'm just going to say the specific details, and just in case that's helpful. So they're on sale on Amazon for $15.95. It costs $2.95 to print each one, and I make about $6 on each one, and then Amazon direct deposits the money into my account like once a month. And so the downside so far of using CreateSpace is I have no idea who has bought my book. So like the one that Eliz just showed is actually the second edition. So I can't contact everyone who bought edition 1 to say, hey, surprise, there's a second edition now. So what I've tried to do is, through my own marketing pieces, is really focus on bulk orders. So I offer bulk orders at $8, and they contact my virtual assistant directly. So then she now has the contact information, and then she orders it through CreateSpace, and the school's getting it at $8 a piece. So then I have a way of following up with them. I get that. So my question is, how do you get a book?
I'm not being clear. Can CreateSpace print hard copy books?
Like a hardcover book?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood the question. I don't think so. The big facilitation guide that I'm doing, I'm actually having Disc.com do the printing because it's spiral bound, and CreateSpace couldn't do that. But I never asked about hard copies, so I don't know.
Right. But my understanding is, like David, you've got your book that you can order through Amazon. It comes out hardback.
Well, my book is a traditionally published book.
Right. So they're the ones who handle that through CreateSpace.
No. So real books, real books. Which I've got 7 self-published books, by the way. And also, now that I'm speaking, I'm also your new paid professional speaker. So, Liz, you're getting an invoice from me.
Oh, thanks. Great.
But this is a great point, though, and what Doug was saying is so true, that all the costs, all the expenses, the foreign rights, the book cover design, the layout, the editing, the production, all of that cost is on the publisher. So Wiley, McGraw-Hill, Career Press, whoever you have. In fact, that's how they really, for us, that could cost $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 right there. It cost me $0. Right. People say, oh, how much did you pay for that awesome book cover design? $0. How about the layout? $0. How about the editing and proofreading? $0. How about the hardcover? $0. So in that way, it's really valuable. And I've got a couple clients actually that are on CreateSpace. I don't think they do a hardback book. I think they just do soft cover.
Okay, because I know there's a way that you can list your stuff, all your stuff, your books, your CDs, all your stuff on Amazon for like that $39.99 deal.
Yeah, that's not CreateSpace though. Yeah. That's through Amazon Advantage.
Amazon Advantage. Okay. Has anybody done that? Does it work?
Yeah,
Do you like it?
And it depends on the amount of books that you're selling on a regular basis. So they'll request a certain number of books to have in their magic warehouse, wherever that is. And when they start to get low, then they send you a notice that says, we need another box or whatever. They'll tell you how much, and then you pay to ship it there, and you're paying to have it on Amazon, but then you get paid every time somebody buys one.
I mean, they take a lot of money. They take like 55%.
Yes.
And you're still paying to keep it out there. So if you're not doing a lot of volume, the math doesn't work.
So the math is not huge. We do it with all of my stuff, and the advantage is that we don't have to do any fulfillment. And so, I don't sell a ton of stuff, but everything is through Amazon Advantage. Most of my books we actually have print, not all, some of we've done print on demand, but most of them have been, we actually print hard copies of in small and medium-sized amounts through New Year Publishing, which I own part of, and then we put everything through Amazon Advantage so that everything can be sent there. So anytime someone wants to order something, they can find it there. I'm not selling hundreds of thousands of books. I mean, my best-selling one has sold 20 plus, another one has done 15, and the others are a lot less. But the idea behind it is I want to make it as easy for the customer, because my books drive my speaking business. I don't look at my books as a profit center, although thank God they have been, or at least not a lot.
Okay, so Tom, so you are part owner of a publishing company that can print hard copy books.
Well, in theory, yes.
In theory. Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Can I throw out one more thing that had to do with what Jess said about tracking your buyers?
Yes.
This is so hugely important. And if you're writing a book, next book, revising a book, whatever, you must put the URL of your book's landing page sprinkled everywhere in the book. So like 10 different places in my book, it says, download companion resources and tools at doitmarketing.com/book. So I've sold over 10,000 books. I have 1,500 people went to that URL, gave me their name, their email address, and their Amazon receipt number, or some kind of receipt number. So I can now communicate directly, like Jess was saying, with 15% of those 10,000 people. I wish it were higher, but 1,500 is better than 0. So if I have a seminar, if I have something else to offer them, if I have a new bonus, if I have something. There's 15% of my reader base who gifted me with their email address. I now have a straight line to them. It's so funny because my publisher, which is Amicom, when we were doing the edit, she said, "Oh, we have to take some of these out." And I said, "No, we don't have to take any of those out." And she says to me, "David, this book is not an advertisement for your business." I said, "You know what? Not only is the book an advertisement for my business, my entire business is an advertisement for the book." So the more that we integrate those two, and it's true, the more that we integrate those two, the more books we're going to sell. And that shut her up pretty quick. Anytime you're working with a New York publisher and you want to kind of pull rank on them, here's the magic phrase to add to whatever you want to have happen. So that we sell more books. So that we sell more books. I want this cover and not that cover so that we sell more books. I want this layout versus that layout so that we sell more books. I need this marketing mechanism in the book so that we sell more books. And they go, okay.
The other piece that I would add in, and I think that perhaps this group gets it, but this is recorded, so maybe other people will be listening. But my first round of Notice Notes, the first version, I used a printing house that is now out of business, and they were great to work with. And I think I bought like 2,000 books, and I just had them sitting in my garage. And that didn't seem to be a big deal until I experienced the first earthquake where I live, and I was like, I have 2,000 books. Like, what happens if like that floods or something happens and I'm not home? And like all of a sudden it dawned on me that I have 2,000 like boxes of books that should be eventually money. And I was doing my own fulfillment, which really means that my husband was doing the fulfillment because I was out of town. So it became really kind of a burden that he wouldn't articulate. Like, I'm really sick of making all these packages because you're not here. So when I switched to CreateSpace, it was really just so some other human would actually do the mailing of them. So the price point thing changed, but to be honest, I wasn't selling enough copies to where I really noticed that big of a difference. Now I'm selling enough bulk orders that I'm getting the addresses at $8 a pop instead of the 15 or whatever. And on Amazon, I also put them up as Kindles, and if you get them as iBooks, in order to go through the iBook process, they also can become ADA compliant, which as diversity and social justice is kind of an extra bonus. So the sales that are coming through Amazon seem to be less important. And so I have contemplated just switching everything over to disc.com so that I could know the buyers. If I sell enough, that extra $4 it would cost, I think, is worth knowing who it is. But until I sell enough that $4 is worth it, I haven't. But I guess that leads me to a question to ask this group, is that I've also been told that if I weren't listed on Amazon, then the book looks really not important. It's already self-published. It's already pocket size.
So my business partner for the publishing company says if you're not on Amazon, it's not a book, because you want to make it easy for people to find your book. And if people see you speak and they go, oh, she has a book, they're going to go to Amazon. Most people are going to go to Amazon, not your website. And so that was why we put everything through Amazon. The other thing is, if you're going to do CreateSpace, I just want to add in a thing. CreateSpace or any type of self-publishing, David was talking about how awesome his cover is, and David, your cover is awesome. Make sure that you do put some effort into how the book's quality looks. The biggest compliment I ever got about my books actually came from David, who was looking at my book as I was telling him how I created it, and he held it in his hand and said, "You did this yourself? You've got to be kidding me. It looks too good." And it was like, I think I'll take that as a compliment, David.
Is having your book on Amazon the same as having it on eBay? Because I find a lot of mine on eBay for like 12 cents.
No.
That's just you, Dale.
And I don't know if everyone knows this, and I'm cross-referencing another XY chat, but the Kiwi Live app, I haven't done this yet, but it can now link your Amazon products to your Kiwi Live account, which may also be successful.
Let me just jump on that bandwagon with Jess, and thank you so much for raising that. I love Kiwi Live, folks. My keyword is dog, and depending upon my group, I will do, this is how I capture the emails that David Newman has taught me is so crazy important. People feel, if you ask people to go to your website in a talk, they won't do it because it's clearly just about you. If you ask them to go to Kiwi Live, they can do it on their phone. They can do it anywhere. It's short enough, and it, somehow because it's not yours, people are not threatened by it. My keyword is dog, and if you go to kiwilive.com and put in keyword dog, it will ask, it connects you to me, shows my stuff, and then if you want the stuff sent to you, you can input your email address. And I will tell you that my response rate from audiences ranging from my 20-somethings all the way up to my 70-somethings has increased exponentially. So before I'd get about a 15% buy-in, and now I get closer to 80 in terms of capture rates.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
And I just put a thing in the group chat from Tom Knowles. I don't know if you've seen it. He had a great idea, and again, I kind of kick myself for not doing it. He says, ask for a review in the back of the book. And I thought that was kind of a genius idea, so I put his blurb in the chat.
Oh, that's smart. That's really smart.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like, David, your idea of offering resources to go along with the book that drives them someplace where you're capturing their information. That's brilliant.
You know, one thing that McGraw-Hill said to me was they hope I wasn't going to have a lot of visuals inside of the book. And I don't know, I'm so new at this, I just said, okay, that's fine, but I want to make sure that we put a link in to be able to reference some of those materials, because I'm just guessing that the publisher is looking at, you know, creating visuals and bonuses that as an extra printing cost. And I guess you have to ask yourself, is it worth kind of fighting that, or, you know, linking back to those additional resources, which is, I guess, you know, my next step with it.
Yeah,
let me just jump in with a quick comment there, and for Doug and for everybody. Man, oh man, there's going to be a million fights like that, and so number one, you do have to pick your battles, but number two, at the end of the day, it is totally your book. It is your book. It is your baby. If you want, and again, maybe visuals is not where you want to fight them, but if it, like, my book is very highly visual, highly laid out, and very designed. And that's why I needed that. I wanted that. You know, my book as a wall of text, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. So that battle I had to fight. A lot of others I had to kind of let it go, and it was fine. But you know, you are going to be the best and only advocate and champion for the book that you want to create. So you know, they'll put you through the mill. They'll make it sound like, oh yeah, just make sure that it's not a lot of visuals. Make sure that you're not a pain-in-the-ass author. But at the same time, it is your book, and again, so that we sell more books, right? When people open it up or they look on Amazon and they do search inside the book, do you want it to be visual and compelling and interesting? Will the visuals make them buy the book? I would argue yes. My book even has color. It has 2 color on the inside, full bleed. That's like extra money for them. I said, trust me, it's going to sell the book. And so far, so good. But, you know, you got to be the champion.
That's good advice. Thanks.
Can I just throw something else out there? Back to what Jess said about using, you know, putting everything on Kindle. I had 4 books published by major publishers. I had USNI and I had Penguin, and that was while I was on active duty, so I didn't make any money on those books. You know, gaming, who wants to go through all that trouble and make money? That somehow just seemed wrong. Anyway, when I write everything now, everything is geared toward being converted to Kindle. And what I mean by that is kind of what David said, putting in hyperlinks, putting in other resources, putting in stuff. Because I found that when people go through their Kindles, and maybe you've done it too, if there's hyperlinks, because it's effortless, you you click right on it because you're reading on your Kindle or your Mac or tablet or whatever. So use those hyperlinks. So just when you said that about making sure your stuff's on CreateSpace and it's now Kindleable, we just have to make sure that we're sending them back to different pages. And that's something else I've recently started doing as examples. Is on my URL in my website, I put a / and then something else. So I've got a whole page of free resources. When I do Century 21, it's productiveleaders.com / C21, and then it's all their resources. And it's very easy to do stuff like that with your book resources as well. Just create that special URL, and it drives people deeper into your website, which also helps your SEO. So again, if you're writing the book or you're in the process, make sure you've got a half a dozen or a dozen hyperlinks in there that somehow benefit you, like what David was saying.
Smart.
And I guess for clarification, Mary, inside the book, would you direct them to one link that's kind of the repository for all the content, or would you?
I do a couple different things. For example, if I say, hey, I'm talking about millennials, and here's a hyperlink to my article on millennials. So it's different hyperlinks within the book, but my main website, free information, sign up here, that's in there a couple times. Anything that but different places on my website, I drive people into the website through the hyperlinks in the book.
And are those hyperlinks, are they squeeze pages, like landing pages for emails, or just directly to the content?
They're directed to content. So there's only a couple pages. There's nothing. I really have never used a squeeze page except for David Newman stuff, and that was a good learning experience for me. And I need to do more of that.
Cool. Thanks.
All right, we have just a little over 5 minutes left. Any final questions?
I have a self-serving question if nobody else has things that they'd like to ask.
Go for it.
Ha ha, look at me. So my newest publishing project thing, the tagline that my beta testers came up with, which I actually really like, is the closest to inside Jessica's head as you would ever want to get. It is about a 350-page facilitation guide of a bunch of different social justice activities and how my reflection journals are being used as a 1-hour program, a semester-long program, a year-long program. It's a whole bunch of stuff and like all of my research and all my theories and all this kind of stuff put together, and I'm calling it the huge ass facilitation guide. And the number that I yanked out of my Bataucus is to price it roughly at the same price as a 3 DVD video set I have for kind of my LGBT ally development program. So it's a $400-ish giant guide that I'm having disc.com do the printing of. So I guess my question is that if CreateSpace can't do the printing because it's spiral bound, to keep with my kind of academic spiral bound look. So I guess my question is if disc.com does the printing, I've been dependent on Amazon as kind of a landing page for people to find it or me to send people to, etc. What are your, I don't even know what questions to ask. What are your initial thoughts? How do I do Amazon if disc.com is actually doing the printing? Perhaps this is this advantage thing and I should just ask someone offline. What am I missing? I do not want a box of 2,000 of them in my garage.
So if you use Advantage, you don't have to, because disc.com will do them on print on demand, you don't have to have 2,000 of them. You may want to print like dozens or whatever of them, because Amazon will only want so many at a time. So sometimes they'll ask me for like
set up with the Advantage, so I guess I have to.
It's not hard to do, but they'll ask me for 25 copies of the ABCs of Networking or Some Assembly Required, which are the 2 that sell really well. They may want 4 copies of one of my other books when they ask for them. So the more it sells, the more they will keep on hand. So I have one book that I never intended to really commercially sell, and so we printed 300 of them. and they're out there, they're available, but I don't have boxes and boxes of them. I just printed 300 because that was a decent print-on-demand price break where, you know, I have a box of them and I can send off a few so that they're on Amazon if they're needed. So my thought is you don't have to have thousands of them, but you would print several of them so that you can quickly get them out the door when they need them. Can I say one thing about that?
Yeah.
Your big ass guide. I know in your market that won't turn anybody off. I know in corporate people will be like, oh, big ass. But
super collegiate.
Yeah.
Like.
So, but no, I get it. But my question is shouldn't the title have something in it that says what it is?
It is notice notes, a huge ass facilitation guide.
Okay.
I have just a quick marketing question about this. You said is this a soft cover spiral bound thing, or is it in a physical binder?
In theory, it looks like one of those fat spiral notebooks with like the yellowy orange folders as the dividers of the.
It's so funny because format indicates value. I don't think that's going to sell for $400. You put the same thing in a big binder, and you put the nice glossy kind of view, the view binder thing. That is now an information product, same exact content, but not spiral bound soft copy, because that's like $30. That's like a manual. That's like a book. Mm-hmm. In a hard binder, 3-ring, that'll sell like crazy for $400.
Huh. Okay.
The great advantage of that, Jess, is you can also include a couple, a DVD or a CD or something like that in the back, and Disc.com knows how to package this really well.
And the other thing is, if at any point you decide to add something and you have 300 of them or 30 of them, you clip open the 3 rings and put in your extra page 30 times and click it shut.
Yeah.
Think binder. Binder is money.
All right, cool. I am super glad I asked. The notice notes are built off of those composition notebooks. So they have like the marbly front. The first one's black and white. So it is the cover kind of currently matches those composition notebooks. Yeah.
But you can put the same sort of design within that.
But just put it in the binder.
Hey Jess, take a look at Jerry O'Brien's products. The guy, as we know, he's a product. Liz has everything.
I happen to have one right here.
So
yeah, no, I have his stuff too, and it's like super slick.
He's a wizard when it comes to packaging that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this.com does his stuff too.
And I think if you're going to charge that much, I think you want it to look slick, even though your market isn't slick. There's still human beings who are going to say, "I spent $400. This is slick. I did a good thing."
But you could have the same look here.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good to know.
But I agree. The cool design inside page, as silly as it is, but that was David's point, right? The way it looks makes a difference.
Right.
And Jerry,
that's $400 right there.
Yeah, Jerry's stuff, I tell him he's a wizard of product manuals. His stuff all looks so good. I just am jealous and wish I had something like it.
20 out of 10, that's what I call him.
Huh?
Yeah. Right. Well, thanks. I was not anticipating that, but that's good to know.
Cool. I think that was good stuff. As always, you are welcome to continue the conversation after we turn off the recording, but in respect for our time, I'm going to end it now, and thank you all very much for being with us today. Hopefully I'll get to see everybody at convention in a few weeks. Not everybody.
The Learning Lounge.
Yeah, go to the Learning Lounge. But we'll be back after convention for a convention recap virtual lunch, so keep your eyes out for that announcement and invitation, and thank you everybody for being here.
Thanks, Liz. Appreciate it so much.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Hello.